So I don't know which of these videos I'm uploading first, but I'm doing a bit of a batch recording. So I promise I earn more than just green, but I'll be in a lot of green. So today I want to do a little bit of a discussion on controversial wedding photography thoughts, tips, my opinions that a few people might find controversial. Please, comment in the, comments and share your opinions. Like, follow, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Let's get the big one out of the way. I won't have a student as a second shooter. I'll have them as a third shooter, and I'll still pay them, but I won't have them as a second shooter. So a lot of advice you see online tells people to go be a second shooter if they want to learn how to do wedding photography, which I agree with, but I wouldn't have a second shooter at a wedding that I didn't trust the photography skills of. And you have plenty of people who are professional second shooters. I have second shooters that I work with all the time. I trust their work and I love what they do. So for me to have someone else in that is a student that doesn't necessarily know the ins and outs, how their camera works, what I want from them, what the bride and groom want from them, or what the couple wants from them, very risky. Again, we all have to learn from somewhere, but I would then have them as a third shooter. I'd have them as an extra person, so me and the second shooter could spend some time teaching them what we're doing, why we're doing, etc. They would still get paid. They'd get paid less than the second shooter, but they would still get some money for the wedding, and they would be expected to obviously be photographing, they participate in everything, but I also wouldn't expect to use any of their photos. If we do and we deliver to the couple, that is even better, that's amazing. But I have the reassurance that I have myself and my second, and those photos will be delivered to the couple. And anything from the third or student shooter, that's just a happy bonus. I think as a student and someone who's learning to second shoot and eventually learn to do weddings, there's a lot of learning you have to do. And that means that myself or my second shooter needs to take time to explain what we are doing. And you can't always gauge a student until you've actually worked with them. If I can, I like to have a student on like a studio day or a portrait day. They're very, very different environments. A studio day, obviously, you could completely control. You could dial in the flash, you could pose them. You have 3 to 4 hours in a studio, and that's fine. You're able to control all the aspects. If you run over a little bit, you can pay some extra time, or maybe you don't get all the shots you need, but you make it work. A wedding day has no redos. I have had student photographers who have told me they are a student, which is amazing, and then they don't know how to use the camera. They've never gone out of auto. They don't know what ISO does. They don't know what shutter speed does. So I'm essentially having to teach them to use the camera as well as teaching them what shots we want to get. So that's why I like to know if we can get a studio day, because at least I can see if they can use the camera. Because people, they want to be doing wedding photography. There's good money in wedding photography. But that sometimes means that they'll overestimate what they can do. So yeah, that's my opinion on students. I am more than happy to have you as a third person, but I won't have a student at every wedding, definitely not, because obviously I'm paying them and we're not necessarily getting anything good out of it. And yeah, it's not the easy route. It's not what everyone thinks it is. That's where I'm going with that. Don't have a cheap photographer. I don't know if that's controversial or not, but don't have a cheap photographer. I understand that my wedding services are priced appropriately for myself and to pay my second shooter and to pay for my time, and not everyone can afford that, and that is okay. What the issue is if you're paying a wedding photographer £100 to £300 for the day, which I have seen this advertised on Facebook and I've seen the results, you are playing a risky game. They could be an amazing student photographer who is just about to finish their master's degree and wants to practice to build a portfolio. And they are amazing, and you have lucked out. They could be like the people I've had recently where I've got emails saying, hi, our wedding photographer took these photos. They're not very good. Can I edit them? And you look, and the photographer didn't even shoot in RAW. Because when I tell the couple, okay, you need to communicate with the photographer that you would like this service done, because I'm not going to go behind someone else's back. And you say, you need to communicate to them, and you need to say, hi, I'm not the biggest fan of the editing style. I'd like to pay someone else to edit them. Can I get the RAW files? Obviously, it's the photographer's prerogative whether they do that or not. But the photographer said, what do you mean by the RAW files? These are the unedited files, which was JPEGs. For those who aren't photographers, JPEGs have almost presets. Think of it like Instagram filters. A JPEG is a compressed file that has filters or the phone or the camera, its preferences and colours added to it. A RAW file should be relatively flat, and it allows you to take so much information out of it. You can go from like pitch black shadows to seeing like a table in there. RAW files are amazing, and it means that, at least from a colour point of view, you can fix almost anything. I mean, if it's out of focus, if it's a artistically bad shot, you're never fixing that. Possibly some cropping, but you're not fixing that. But from a colour point of view, you can at least fix things, because the skin tones were looking a bit weird, a bit patchy. They didn't know what RAW files were. So I've now got a booking with this couple, and we're doing a redo shoot. We're doing a fake wedding, essentially. There's a few churches that I work with in West Sussex, where I'm based, that on quiet days will allow us to book the venue for a couple of hours just to take photos so it looks like you had a church wedding. Sometimes a vicar is available, not always, and sometimes they charge extra. So it's not a cheap process having wedding photos retaken. They are paying a premium, and they're essentially paying twice. You have to be careful. Like, I charge £2,500 for a wedding. I then pay my second shooter £500, and I'm then editing these photos. I think we worked it out that it's 80 hours of work between me and the second shooter. So that's 20 hours of us there at the day, 2 times 10, and then like 60 hours is editing. So it will take me 60 hours of editing to get all of your photos compressed to the 8 to 1200 that I advertise, all done, edited and sent to you. That is a lot of work. And if someone is saying they'll do that for £100 to £300, be very, very dubious. And unless you know someone else, this sounds really bad, but if your friend has been a guinea pig and used them and the photos are okay, then maybe. But be careful, because there's a lot of cowboys on Facebook. I don't really get any work from Facebook. I'm trying, but my prices are too high for the Facebook target audience. They want cheap as chips, which is fair. Everyone has a budget, and you find someone within your budget. But for me, and I don't mean this as someone who... I am obviously biased. Photography is my industry. But the two things that are going to last from your wedding day are the marriage and the photos, hopefully. And if the marriage doesn't last, the photos will, or should. So that is my thing, is if you're going to spend money somewhere, the photography should be relatively high up that list. I understand, obviously, you want to feed everyone, and you want to have a nice wedding cake, a nice dress, a nice suit, and things like that. But you've got to remember, these photos you're hoping to show friends, family, possibly kids or grandkids, depending on what you want. But they're there as a memory, and you want to have the best memory you can afford. That is all I'm going to say there. Those are that is a big thing for me. My third controversial one is you can't have a videographer and photographer in one. Let me explain. As a photographer, I cannot aim up, take the shoot, switch over, make sure my settings for video are correct, then video you walking down the aisle while hoping to take photos of you walking down the aisle. If you have a company that offers a photography and video package, that's absolutely fine if they're two separate people. But I am a relatively good photographer. I am competent at video. I understand the theory behind it. I understand how to point a camera. I would never say I'm a videographer, but I understand the principles. I can't see how on one device you could do both. I'm there with two cameras shooting. I don't understand how one of them is meant to be video and then I'm taking photos. And I haven't personally seen anyone who is doing both do it well. I know a few people who do both, but I personally haven't seen anyone who does both well. So I would look for either two companies, one that does video, one does photo, and they will talk. We will talk in the industry. We'll have people local that we recommend or local to you. So, you know, it's never going to offend us if you say, hey, do you know a videographer or do you know a photographer? We will help you. And then, or there might be a company that does both. And they have a separate videographer and photographer. Perfect, you're paying for one package, all good. Highly recommend. Just, I wouldn't ever go with someone who does both as a service. I've never seen it done well personally. So yeah, those are my wedding hot takes and my controversial opinions. Please like, follow, subscribe for more.